Republicans in Florida have successfully passed the Parental Rights and Education Bill. It's a bill that makes sure parents have the right to know what is being taught to their children. It makes sure that parents can object or file complaints if things are being taught to their children that they don't like. Somehow, this bill, the Parental Rights and Education Bill, I'm not a fan of names, by the way, and you can call a bill whatever you want, but the bill is specifically about this. Somehow Democrats have started claiming in the press that it's the Don't Say Gay bill, even though the bill has very little to do with any of that. So that's what it is. Don't say gay. That's what the Democrats are calling it. Now, I've criticized them and said, if you want to play games and give it a name, how about we call it the Anti-Grooming Bill? But how about you actually just read the bill and see it has very little to do with discussing sexual identity or orientation. In fact, the bill does not ban teachers from discussing sexual orientation with children. Hey, wait a minute. They said don't say gay. They produced video after video after video of them saying gay, 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 gay all of the time. The bill doesn't prevent teachers or staff from discussing these things. The bill doesn't prevent students from discussing these things. The bill prevents teachers from engaging in certain curriculum within the school and grants the rights to parents to know what is being taught. The first provisions are specifically about parental rights to know. That's it. Yet even now, the Washington Post says, don't say gay bill, and they omit what the bill is actually about. Washington Post reports, Florida legislature passes bill to restrict LGBTQ topics in elementary schools. The Florida Senate on Tuesday passed controversial legislation that regulates lessons about sexual orientation and gender identity in public classrooms, despite concerns from activists and student groups that argued the bill would have a chilling impact on gay, lesbian, and transgender students that are 8 years old or younger. The DeSantis administration has been a bit more firm. Of course, Christina Pushaw, the spokesperson for DeSantis, said that if you oppose this bill, you're a groomer. You are grooming children. And you know what? I agree. If you're going to 4-year-olds and discussing with them things that they don't know, you are grooming them. Children have a right to be children. It is incumbent upon parents to discuss sex ed with their kids. I have no problem with sex ed in schools at a certain age, but it's up to parents to decide, which is exactly what this bill is. Why are Democrats embracing some kind of opposition to this bill in ridiculous ways? I'll tell you. First, I think there absolutely are groomers who want schools to groom children. They want to groom your kids. This means they are setting them up to have some kind of behavior. They want your children to be exposed to certain adult materials and content, grooming them. Okay, I think that's wrong. Now, I think many of the other Democrats are simply just going along with it because that's what they do. Because when you're not a person of principle, and you're told we always support the LGBTQ community, you will always support it no matter what is presented in front of you. Now, I actually did fundraising on behalf of the Human Rights Campaign for gay rights. I'm very much in favor of gay marriage and these rights. And I have no problem saying, yeah, if you don't want 8-year-olds learning about this stuff, I have no problem with it. But when they come out and they say, this is about Republicans attacking the LGBTQ community, I'm like, no, it isn't. It literally isn't. Read the bill. This is what's important. The legislation, which Florida Democrats and LGBTQ activists refer to as the Don't Say Gay bill, now advances to DeSantis. In recent days, DeSantis has indicated he will likely sign the legislation, saying it is designed to shield Florida's youngest students from exposure to sensitive topics in the classroom. We are going to make sure parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into some of their school curriculum, DeSantis said at a news conference on Monday. Let me show you the manipulation. I'll tell you this. You want to argue this bill? Fine, I don't care. You want to say the bill is bad? Fine, I don't care. Okay? If you don't like the bill, present your argument. What I don't like is the manipulation and the lying from these scumbag Democrats. They just lie non-stop. It's infuriating. Here's the actual bill from the Florida House of Representatives. It is the Parental Rights and Education Bill. It requires the district school boards to adopt procedures that comport with certain provisions of law for notifying students' parent of specified information. Okay, I see nothing wrong with that. Next, requires such procedures to reinforce fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding upbringing and control of their children. Okay, that sounds like a good thing. I mean, the parents should have a right to choose for their children. Prohibits school district from adopting procedures or student support forms that prohibit school district personnel from notifying parent about specified information or that encourage student to withhold from parent such information. I see no issue there either. These are what's the problem? I see no issue. Parents should have a right to know what is going on. Schools should not be allowed to withhold information about the kids from their parents. Parents are the taxpayers who are funding these schools. Many people, even people without kids, are funding these schools, and we have a right to know what you are spending our money on. It's called transparency, and it's called our money funding your systems. But wait, there's more. Prohibits school district personnel from discouraging or prohibiting parental notification and involvement in critical decisions affecting students' mental, emotional, or physical well-being. That is fantastic. Prohibits school from discouraging. So if you got a kid who's depressed, the teacher can say, don't tell your parents. No, sorry. You see what they're doing? They want to groom your kids. Think about it. Let me read more. Prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in certain grade levels. Requires school districts to notify parents of healthcare services. Authorizes parents to bring action against school district to obtain declaratory judgment. Provides for additional award of injunctive relief, damages, and reasonable attorney fees and court cost to certain parents. Oh, only one small portion of this, maybe a sixth, maybe less, seventh, includes anything about identity, and it only is for certain grade levels. And it only covers curriculum. It doesn't prohibit the teachers from discussing this with their kids. Oh, hold on. But it says prohibits classroom discussions. That's right. Classroom discussions where the teacher is talking to all of the students about sex ed. I don't care. That's the parent. If you're a parent of these kids, you decide if you want to talk to your kids about this. Why are Democrats so hell-bent on having parents not know what their kids are being told? Hell-bent on making sure schools can discourage children from talking to their own parents, and hell-bent on making sure kindergartners are being taught things about identity, orientation, and general sex. Parents should be the ones to decide. Period. It requires school boards to adopt a procedure to comport with provisions of law notifying parents of specified information. Okay. Now here's what really sickens me. This bill is not anti-LGBTQ. It's not. Think about it this way. If there is a kid who is depressed because, his dog died, the teacher right now can tell the student, don't talk to your parents, do as I say. Well, that's wrong. The teachers should not be allowed to do that. That is wrong. For what reason are Democrats asserting the right to tell children not to talk to parents? Under the guise of LGBTQ activism. But that is only one narrow component of this bill. That means they are willing to allow your children to suffer in depression if it means some kids who may have mental issues related to their identity don't get discouraged, don't get encouraged or are discouraged from talking to their parents. If a child is gay, he should talk to his parents. If a child is trans or anything, definitely should talk to their parents. And the parents, who have custody of the children until they're 18, should discuss with them reasonably and rationally what the solutions are. Why is it that the government institutionalized learning facility feels that they are better judges of what a child should be going through? Think about it this way. What's the argument? I've heard the argument from many people saying that, well, what if the parents aren't supporting? Supporting of what? Supporting of depression? Oh, you're talking about specific LGBTQ issues. Well, who's to say who is right or who is wrong in terms of the well-being of the child? Certainly not I. It's not my child. If I were to judge things, I would say the parents ultimately take action based on what's best for their child because they're the parents. A teacher, I certainly think, should look out for the well-being of a child, but should still defer to the parents. So what is this? What is it they're trying to do? As the saying goes, socialists don't have children, they have yours. Why should a stranger decide for the parents what is right for their kids? Now let's talk outside of LGBTQ issues. Why should a teacher be granted privileged access to a child to their complaints, to their fears, to their problems over the parents. They are trying to strip that connection from parents and their kids. Now, here's the other question. So let's go back to that first point I made. The assumption is, what if the parents don't support the kids? What if the teachers don't support the kids? What if a kid comes out to a teacher complaining that they're depressed because they're gay, and the teacher is anti-gay? And what if the teacher says, don't tell your parents it's true, they'll shun you and hate you, you're a naughty child, and says awful things to them? You see, they're only thinking of this in one direction, as if all teachers will always be supporting of kids and these identities. No, I think there are a lot of parents. How many memes have we seen where it's like a dad's, it's like the kid comes up to their parents and says that they're gay, and the dad goes, I don't care, do the dishes. And they laugh, ha, 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 ha. Or they say something like, we always knew, son, but you still got to do the dishes. Ha, 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 because, oh, you're going to do the chore instead. We've seen a lot of those memes, right? That is to say, there is an equal likelihood. In fact, I'd argue in many of these jurisdictions that are big cities and more left-leaning, it is entirely more likely the parents would be more accepting. Regardless, what if the teachers are anti-gay? You see, therein lies the real problem here. There's no principle on the side of the left. They seek only to steal and seize power. Now, this one I'm impressed by. Christina Pshaw wrote, the bill that liberals inaccurately call Don't Say Gay would be more accurately described as an anti-grooming bill. I don't think either of those are true, but I certainly think the response is funny and apt. That was the point that I made on IRL a few days ago. I said, you guys see that anti-grooming bill that Democrats are upset about because they're pro-grooming? Yeah. I like the meme, okay, groomer. This is where we are right now, my friends. Biden to request $2.6 billion to promote gender equity worldwide. Why? I'll tell you what you do right now. Take that $2.6 billion and subsidize gas or something. Now, I really don't think that would be a solution to all the problems. $2.6 billion probably wouldn't cover, for the most part, the gas costs. And I don't know if subsidy is a good idea. The point is, I would much rather see $2.6 billion spent on, energy investment, be it renewable or otherwise, and as opposed to gender equity worldwide. We are in a major crisis right now. Gas prices hit a record high. Inflation is through the roof. Wheat prices jumped 70% this year. And Joe Biden's priority is this. This is what I just can't stand. And do you get honesty from the Washington Post? No. They don't actually tell you what the bill does. The bill, officially called the Parental Rights and Education Bill, would prohibit Florida schools from teaching students in kindergarten through third grade. Look at that. About topics involving sexual orientation and identity. Third grade. We are talking about 7 and 8-year-olds. Lessons for older grades would have to be age appropriate, which Democrats argue is a vague way of stifling all conversations about LGBTQ issues. Republicans downplayed that risk, saying the legislation prevents planned lessons, but does not ban discussions between students or prevent teachers from answering specific questions from a student. You know what? I'm not a fan of the Republicans either. Why? Because they do half measures. Now, look, I think this is actually a good bill. Teachers should not have a right to discourage students from talking to their parents. Parents should have a right to know. But the thing is, whenever it comes to these bills, and I don't want to cite this one specifically, but Republicans always go halfway. Republicans are like, no. It still allows the teachers to talk to the students, just not in a curriculum. And I'm like, So let me get this straight. Republicans put forth a bill that says you can't teach in the curriculum kindergarten through third grade about these topics. But the teachers can one-on-one discuss it. Or not necessarily one-on-one, but can discuss it in more private settings with the students. Republicans didn't even ban teachers from talking to individual or small groups of kindergartners about sex. They didn't, because they didn't go that far. And the Democrats are still taking issue with it. You see, this is what happens. Republicans do a half measure. Democrats complain like it's the apocalypse. Democrats end up winning because Republicans don't go far enough. Perhaps it should be fair to say there should be a bill banning teachers from discussing topics related to sex with children under a certain age. Republicans didn't do that. It's just official curriculum because Republicans want to be reasonable and they want to say, no, we want to make sure discussions can happen. I find it interesting that if a child is confused about something, and let's take it away from the LGBTQ community, because I'm talking about anything. A kid can come in and say they feel depressed about a certain issue. The response should always be, if a child is experiencing distress, the teacher should say, you should talk with your parents. They love and care about you, and they're there for you. Now, sometimes you have bad parents. You hear these stories about kids getting beat or locked up. Okay. If a child reports physical abuse, then I believe the teacher should say, we are escalating this to law enforcement. As for emotional abuse, I don't think we can quantify very easily what that means. See, the Democrats' view of things is that if a child says they're gay, the parents must agree with the child. What if the child is wrong or confused? What if the child just needs loving support and guidance? What if the kid isn't? There are certainly stories of people who thought they were gay and then realized they weren't, especially a child who hasn't even gone through puberty yet. So why are these kids talking to teachers about this stuff anyway? It's not a thing these kids even know about. One of the problems I have with a lot of what's happening is that there's a conflation between gender and social constructs and biological sex. And so what you hear is, let me put it this way. How does a child know if they're gay or trans? Typically, what happens is they'll say something like, a little boy will say they like dresses or want to play with dolls. But those are social constructs. We have to be very careful if we're dealing with transgender youth, because I certainly believe they can exist. They do exist. If we're dealing with these children, we don't simply say, because you want to be non-binary, socially, not biologically, that you should undergo any kind of physical alterations. This is the challenge. Personally, I would like to see any child who is experiencing any of these issues receive the help they deserve, but it's got to come through the guidance and assistance of their parents who know what's best for them. Sometimes you have bad parents, and sometimes then you get intervention, but it's got to be under the strictest of circumstances. I believe most parents, the overwhelming majority, have in mind what's best for their children. Now, for these kids who are actually dealing with these issues, because of course they exist, like I said, they should get everything they need. But what happens if you have a child who's simply confused? And then you get a teacher who isn't interested in helping the child, is only interested in pushing an agenda. They can harm the child. And therein lies the real problem. If we are to believe that most parents want what is best for their children, that would mean if the kids actually are LGBTQ, then good parents will do right by those kids. But if you have teachers who are only going to see these kids for a year, maybe a couple years, because 1 year they have in their class, the other years they're in and out in other classrooms. So maybe they'll see them around. But 1 year, and we're going to give teachers the right to supersede parents? That to me is shockingly insane. I will point out, though, to all of these parents who send your kids to college, why? Why send your kid to any college? And I mean it. We were talking about this last night. DePaul University in Chicago, I believe it's a Christian college. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Christian. Ben Shapiro went to speak there. Protesters came, and so they wouldn't let Ben Shapiro on the campus. They said they would arrest him for trespassing or something if he stepped 1 foot further or something like that. I can't remember. And then he said something like, about them thinking that a 5'5" Jewish man is a threat. It's fascinating to me because you'd think, while Christians and Jewish people have different beliefs, there's a large overlap. The Old Testament, with the Old Testament, Christians have the New Testament. You'd think that Ben Shapiro's morals would be more in line with a Christian college's than woke far left cultists, but they still kick him out. You want to send your kids to a college? By all means. Don't be surprised when they come back with their heads shaved, with piercings all over their body, and them saying they hate you and everything about you because you're an evil colonist, white privilege, blah, blah, blah. How about you just do right by your children and take them under your wing and teach them what you can? Teach them how to be good at what they can be. Teach them to practice. Give them a musical instrument. Give them a sport. If you have a young child right now, seriously, get them a musical instrument, period. If you have a child right now, not only get them a musical instrument, get them into some kind of sport. Personally, I was always a big fan of individual sports, skateboarding. I did play some team sports with my friends, but kind of just whatever. Like we played hockey a lot. But for the most part, it's just skateboarding is good, individual sports. Team sports are good, build team building. I like individual sports because it teaches you to be reliant on yourself. With skateboarding, if you want to do it, if you want to 50-50 that handrail, You have to choose to do it. No one will help you. It's very individualist. With team sports, you get a lot of people who rely on others. I'm not a fan of this. There's good things about it and there's bad things about it. You get a kid in a team sport, they may become the quarterback, the star. Or they could just become someone who is told what to do. Now, that is some people. Not everybody is a leader. But I think if you get your kids playing music and you get your kids skateboarding or rollerblading or scooting or BMXing, individual sports, they're going to say, there's no cheating. There's no points. When you go to the skate park and you want to do a kickflip backside lip slide down a rail, it's a cool trick, by the way. You're not going to lie about it. No one's going to believe you. They're going to say, show me the footage. I didn't film it? Yeah, right. I won't believe it unless I see it. No. Some people lie, but there's no cheating. You have to prove to yourself. You have to take the risks yourself and earn for yourself the accomplishment from within that you did it and you know you've proven to yourself you've done it. Because no one cares to hear you claim you did something. No one does. You get the rumors like, you hear Johnny did a backside flip down that 10 stair, and people are going to be like, I don't care. Show me the video of it and I'll be impressed. But don't talk. Let's go skate. You got to take your kids under your wing and stop putting them in these institutionalized learning facilities, because look what they're doing. The bill is literally just to make sure parents know what's going on. That's it. Know what's going on. And the Democrats are trying to stop you from knowing what's going on. They oppose the transparency in the classroom. Your tax dollars pay for this. How about this? Florida, next step, voucher program for schools. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.